For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and you know what? I'm still feeling very magical. And I'm going to tell you why over the course of the next 30 minutes, because, I get sometimes it's just, I feel, a little tingly. I'm really hyping it up. No, I just spent a really fun day with a charity that I have been associated with for 12 years now, and I'm going to recap the fun that I had coming up on the Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here on The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in today as we head into middle of October. We're now into the fall season. Do you call it fall or autumn? What do you call it? Send me an email. Tell me. live@jbonair.com. That's just one of the useless things we like to talk about on this show. But something that's really important to a lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of families, is an organization called Dreams Take Flight. It is with Air Canada, and it's been around, well, I guess it was 25 years ago, a few years ago, and I have been a media partner with the organization for 12 years. Now, I got teamed up back when I was hosting my syndicated radio show called Top of the Charts, and I had only really heard about it because I saw on the news that there was this group that, flies to Disney for the day, and I was kind of like, that sounds like something really interesting to cover, and we could, document it. We've got a huge audience as well. We were on 30 or 40 radio stations at the time. We had listeners in Canada and the United States, really all over the world. Air Canada is, it's a national but also an international company. And so we started to produce a radio show. Now, it was difficult, obviously, because this is... I'm going to explain kind of the trip, but it's not a 2-hour kind of... It's not like a red carpet event where you're like, okay, it runs an hour and a half, and there we go. It's literally a full day. And when I say literally, I know what that word means, okay? It is almost exactly a 24-hour period. So clearly we couldn't do that on the radio. So what we were doing was we would tape it as it played out, and then we would just kind of, we'd say at the beginning of the show, this has been taped over the course of a full day, and, we've kind of condensed it and shortened it. And now here we go. And then basically it goes in real time from, the airport first thing in the morning. So I will explain how Dreams Take Flight works in just a moment. But so 12 years ago, I was invited to go and take part. And, it was really cool. Now, the funny thing is, though, is that I really don't care for kids. And so for me, I was kind of like, oh, I love that we're going to do this, for content. We can get some good promotion for the organization. Can I tolerate 140-something kids and, traveling with them, right? This is international travel. It's not like you're just going on a school bus to the museum down the street, in your same city. We're skipping the country with their parents' permission. I don't want to make it sound like it's anything, that it's not. But, so that's something that I was like, okay, this will be a challenge for myself, right? Because my eye is on the prize, though, which is let's put together a kick-ass broadcast and get them some really good promotion, right? I'm the content guy. So if I've got to, tolerate, a snotty kid for, a few hours, well, if it gets me my show and, then I'm all for it. And so I would not have thought that, years later, I'm still doing it. Now, obviously, during the pandemic, we did not go for, I guess it was how long was, I can't remember now, right? It just seems like so long ago. But yeah, we would have had, I guess, perhaps 3 years that we couldn't go. 2 maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so it's now just picked up, and we did it last year, and then we did it again this year. Now, the interesting thing about it is, yes, we were producing for the radio show, but when I signed off from that during the pandemic, I ended my 15-year run from it. We did still produce a special podcast. Now, we did a Scribble that we featured on Air Canada flights. So you know how they have the in-flight entertainment on a lot of airlines where you can either watch TV shows or movies or whatever. Sometimes it's live TV, and then sometimes it's just a library. And there's video or there's audio, and audio could just be either CDs or it could be satellite radio, whatever it is. And so we were part of the podcast section on Air Canada. And Air Canada flights, excuse me. And so that's something that was part of our arrangement was, okay, not only are we going to produce it for our programming, we'll then, do a special edition of the show, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when we did it, we said, thanks for tuning in on your Air Canada flight and blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of, tailored. It was customized for Air Canada. This is their, it's part of their initiative. So it was a shoo-in that we could get on the, could you imagine if they would have said, nah, we're good. We don't. So we kind of had an in there. It was an easy sell. All right, I'll tell this story. A few years earlier, we were pitching other kinds of content to get on to Air Canada flights, and we were constantly rejected. And that's where we thought, wait a second, we're already doing this to promote this, and they're going to be real assholes if they go and say, we actually don't want to promote our charity on the flights. So yeah, no. And I'm laughing because, like I said, we've had such a great relationship. It's 12 years now. It's not like I'm just, so it's been a really fun time. So it normally happens in April out of Winnipeg. Now it happens from across the country. There's it goes from Vancouver, I guess, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2 cities, but my point is it goes from, east to west or west to east, and it's not just Winnipeg. Winnipeg is in the very, center of Canada, and so the Winnipeg trip is usually in April. However, they moved it this year to October, and so that's why I'm talking about it now, was because it was just a week and a half ago. It was on last Wednesday, so yeah, a week and a half ago, and we were excited to produce another show, but here's the thing is that the kids that I was paired up with are usually my co-host for the show. I talk with them. And the ones this year were kind of like not into it. Even for doing pictures and things, which is kind of part of the deal where it's like here, they weren't having it. So we actually didn't even get a show, which is kind of, shitty. But we captured some great moments. We helped make some memories for these kids because it really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For most of these kids, they've never been on a plane before. They haven't certainly experienced something like Disney. So, you know what? I enjoy being part of it. And like I said, it was kind of like I went into it from a content, like a business perspective. Over the years of doing it, I've developed such, first of all, great relationships with the, the volunteers, the people who even created the organization 20 some years ago. I'm trying to think now, is it 27 or 28? Like it's a long time. And so to be invited back every year is just, it really is an honor. And I like to be sarcastic and silly and stupid. It truly, I don't say that about a lot of things, that it's an honor to do something. It really is for this. So I really do enjoy it. Now, I'm going to talk about how it goes, what happens, because you're not going to hear from the kids this time. It's all me this year. So I'm going to recap the Dreams Take Flight experience coming up right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB back here on The Scribble. All right, so Dreams Take Flight is an incredible initiative with Air Canada. I've been talking about that, and I mentioned that it's usually in April. And so this year, because it shifted, I was actually already in Los Angeles. And I thought, well, I could just meet everybody at Disneyland, right? I mean, But part of the fun of Dreams Take Flight is the magical flight, hence the name, right? Flight. So what happened this year was... And again, I'm laughing, but there's always a story. So, because we normally go to Disney World in Florida, in Orlando, right? There were, hurricanes happening, and I guess there, still are in October. And so I had got the invitation, and I just assumed without reading it, because it's like clockwork. After all these years, I'm like, I know that you don't have to send me the information package. I know what we do. I know when we have to get to the airport. Well, I learned my lesson this year. I should read it. So on the Sunday before departure, I mentioned in the last segment, it's a Wednesday departure. They send the mass email to everybody and says, here's the information, and I was kind of like, oh, there's supposed to be a hurricane hitting the Orlando area, but Florida in general, from Tuesday night to Thursday morning. And I was like, that is entirely our time. That is the exact time when we're on our way there. So I send an email to the coordinator who had sent it, and then she had copied somebody else on her initial email, so I just replied to the two of them. And I do my whole, I just checking in, is there a contingency plan in place in the event that, because there's a hurricane coming, like, is it, I want to have, make sure that, it's a special day, and I hope there's, another plan if this doesn't go ahead, what are we doing? They replied back within 5 minutes and said, it's actually California this year, so no worry about that. Well, how do you not feel like an idiot? Right? Because in my email, I'm like, I'm looking forward to it. My 12th year doing it. And they're like, buddy, you haven't even read anything that we've been sending you. So I feel so stupid. And I was like, oh, oops. So I replied back, just laughing, and I said, and then I said, I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm writing this from Los Angeles. So I was already still planning to fly back to Winnipeg anyway, because like I said, the whole thing is the flight experience, which I'm teasing you. I'll tell you about it in a second. And so they were like, yeah, no, that's fine. So I was flying to Winnipeg on Monday night. Monday night, because... Sorry, no, it wasn't. It was Tuesday. I got that wrong. Because, this is how I know. So I didn't sleep. So when I woke up on Tuesday morning in Los Angeles, I did my day. I went about my day as I normally would. And then I went to the airport in the late afternoon, early evening. And then I flew into Winnipeg at night. So I go to our house in Winnipeg for maybe, I don't even know, 3 hours? Maybe about 4 or 5. And so I hadn't been to my Winnipeg house for several weeks. So I got home. I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of hungry. So I, had something to eat. And then once you fuel your body, can you get to sleep right away? No. So it's going on about 10 o'clock. And I thought, okay, well, I've got to be at the airport for 2:30 in the morning. Yes, 2:30 in the morning. And initially when I landed, I thought, I guess I could just stay at the airport here, right? I mean, why bother going home, which is, 25 minutes away, and then coming right back a few hours later? But I did. I went home, and this is where you have that predicament of, do I try to sleep? Because then I'm paranoid I'm going to sleep through my alarm, right? And this is, you have that fear of missing a flight. Well, this is the ultimate flight to miss, right? And so I get home, and I always, as a reporter, as a journalist, you always have, it's called a go bag, which has, a pair of shoes, whatever you need, because you could be sent off to go and cover a story somewhere. And really, we don't have to pack anything, because it's, you're just like a backpack with, your passport and maybe, a sweatshirt in case it gets cold, or, something. You really don't go with anything. Now, of course, because I'm going to be taping a show, I go with some, digital recording equipment and a couple cameras. You always have your electronic backup just in case your first camera craps out. That's journalism 101. So that's really what my go bag already has that. So it's got, the case of batteries, it's got everything in it. So I come home, I ordered food. It's going on about 10:30 now, maybe 11 o'clock. I said, well, I could probably still get like a good 2 hours, 3 hours in. That's just enough rest sometimes, right? Like, it's just kind of enough to, okay, I'm recharged and now I can go. Well, of course, I did not sleep because I was paranoid that I would sleep through my alarm. So I closed my eyes. I was just on the couch. I closed my eyes and I was listening to the TV. And I thought, okay, well, at least I'm getting relaxed, right? Like, I'm just still laying there with my eyes closed. I'm not sleeping, but still my body is kind of, easing into a relaxed state. And then I look at the clock, and it was 1 o'clock. And I thought, all right, well, I might let me shower. I'll, just make sure that I've got my passport. I mean, I already still had my passport because I just came back. So, I just kind of made sure that, that's the batteries are good. I kind of tested them. I turned on the digital recorder and my other microphone that I have, and, just double checked everything. And I got to the airport super early. Normally, this is what happens. I get there like 30 minutes after they say to be there. But as I've mentioned, I know the drill. Like, I don't have to be there super early. So I get into the car. I'm driven there. There's no way that I'm going to be able to drive myself either there or on the way back, just because I'm exhausted and I just don't want to do that. So I get into the car, thankfully, it's fall in Canada. So it was a little bit chilly that morning, and the driver had the heat just cranked up. And I thought, oh my God, this is too comfortable. I almost wanted to tell him to put on the air conditioning to make it cold, to wake me up. But I thought, no, it's nice and cozy. Let me just stay in my little peaceful trance. And so I get to the airport it was before 3 o'clock in the morning. They said, be there between, 3:30 and 4. I'm a media guest. I'm not one of the, the volunteers who has to be the group leader and talk to the kids and parents and coordinate things. I'm kind of the fly on the wall. I'm the tag along. And so, I got there super early. And what happens is there's 20-something groups, and there's either 4, 5, 6 kids. One year I think we had 8 kids in a group that I was paired with. And there's a group leader, a volunteer, and this year she had done it. This was her second time doing it. And so she was familiar with it. I was like, okay, perfect. She knows the drill. She's good. And she said, there's 5 kids coming. And she kind of gave me the rundown. And we learn, there's an info sheet about them. Okay, he's this age. He likes Toy Story. There's, whatever information they feel is relevant to us to get to know them. And especially for me, I'm going to be talking with these kids all day, right? So I need to know what to talk about. So, got to the airport, the kids are arriving. Now, because there's really nothing happening at the Winnipeg airport at 3, 4 in the morning, you kind of have the run of the place. There's no flights landing, there's nothing departing, it's really just dreams take flight there. So, everybody gets in their groups, there's a bit of kind of a breakfast, there's, muffins, bagels, donuts, there's juice, chocolate milk, whatever. Remember, it's 3:30 in the morning. And the parents don't necessarily come with the kids, so this could be a really devastating time for parents, right? They're scared. My God, I'm sending my kid to another country. And a lot of them are excited. And then a lot of them just want to get home to sleep because they've got to get to work in a few hours. So typically what I would do is I would talk with 1 or 2 of the parents that are at the airport with their kid. But this year... nobody wanted to talk to me. It was just kind of disappointing because And it's weird because some other years the parents are actually grateful. They're like, "Oh my god, I'll follow you on Twitter and I'll watch the updates live all day. I'll be live tweeting. I'll be doing it." And they think that it's great. This year, yeah, they had no interest in talking to me. So I should have been on. I struck out right at the airport. I should have just gone home. But it was great because the groups then all go up to the security and customs, and they you got to take off your shoes and do that whole rigmarole, and then they get on the plane and everybody's boarded. Of course, there's Disney music, blasting, and the flight attendants are all dressed up in Mickey and Minnie ears or skirts or the big white hands, like they've got the big cartoon hands. And it's just really welcoming. There were balloons on the plane this year. There were decorations hanging. And so everybody is seated to get the flight off the ground. It's kind of funny. The pilot comes over the intercom, or one of the flight attendants anyway, and says, "We need everybody to stomp their feet because that's going to help the plane go faster." Like the Flintstones car, right? So we need everybody to stomp your feet, and then we're going to get off the ground. And so then there's like this countdown. And then sure enough, right when they get to 0, then the plane lifts off the ground, and then we're going. 10 minutes into the flight is a very wild time. It is the in-flight pillow fight. And I dare you to try this on your next flight and not get arrested. But basically what happens is on our seats when we get onto the plane, there's kind of like a half pillow. It's not a full-on like bed, pillow. But there's a small pillow, and you have that either for your back or your head, whatever it is, in case you want to sleep, right? It's still very early in the morning, and there's a pillow fight. And so what happens is they do this announcement over the thing, and it's like, all right, pillow fight, and then everybody just starts either throwing their pillows or, hitting their neighbor and standing up and hitting the person in front, behind, across the aisle. And I ran up and down the aisle getting, video of that as they're doing it. One year somebody hit my hand, and my phone ended up, hitting the floor, it was fine. It's a BlackBerry, so it's durable. And that's kind of the first 10, 15 minutes of the flight. It's really it sets the tone for the fun that they have all day. And there's breakfast served, and they get they get Dairy Queen ice cream 2 or 3 hours into the flight. So like I said, it's now going on 5 or 6 in the morning, and the kids are having ice cream. And you really do, maybe at an age of 8 or 10 they don't need that sugar to have that energy in the morning. I do. And so it's kind of nice to, have a bit of ice cream. And then as we're landing, of course, everybody loves looking out the window, and being in Los Angeles, there's definitely a lot to see when we're coming into town. And something that they do at the airport, and they've done it in Florida, so they did it as well in LA, at LAX, is the fire department greets the plane and they spray water over. There's like the water cannon, I don't know what you call it, but there's the, they spray it over. They'll often do it when an airline, it's like it's the inaugural, flight of something for, so, but they do this as a nice welcome. And what's really cool is we don't go to the actual airport terminal. We go just, off to the side, and they bring the stairs to the plane. And what happens is the local, or the airport police, I guess it was, the airport police, the airport fire department, and just a bunch of volunteers and, well-wishers all greet the plane. And so there's this big kind of like rock star celebrity welcome for the kids as they're all coming down the stairs. They're greeted by, here's all these people that are cheering them, and the firemen are there, and then they're doing pictures, and the kids are meeting the police dogs and everything. So it really is just such a nice welcome into the city. And then we get on these shuttle buses that are right there. And then it takes us to the park, and again, it's, Disney knows we're coming because it's in cooperation with Disney. So we get to the park, we get our passes that we get kind of the VIP treatment where we can go to the front of the line, and and it's just then the day begins, and because it was California. Now, here's the thing, is that when we go to Florida, we jump ahead an hour in time zone. With Winnipeg, we go back 2 hours. So when we fly from Winnipeg to Florida, we get there generally at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then it takes about half hour, 45 minutes to get from the airport to the park, to Disney World. And with this to LA, we actually got there, it was about 7 in the morning, right? Because we've gone back in time now. So it was really great because we get there shortly after the park opened for the day. And it was a Wednesday, so it's not like we were on, primetime weekend visit. And so we get there, we get into the park, we apply our sunscreen, which often we do on the plane, but we did it at the park this time. And we, it's up to the kids. Some of them have done their research because they're savvy youngsters with the internet, and they've either heard of the rides or they've looked into them and they know what they want to do. And then it's up to the group leader. She's the one who's kind of, okay, we can do this. She has to reserve a spot for some of them. Some of them we can go just right to the front. And she was coordinating all that. And then it was on. And our first ride this time, and it's funny because on the plane I was teasing the kids. I said, Space Mountain, you guys, if you haven't heard of it, it's the coolest ride. Let's just do that one. And wouldn't you know what that ended up being, because I convinced my wonderful group of kids, we had 4 kids, that they wanted to go on Space Mountain. And it was great because they had a good time. And the one thing about Disney is, some of the kids are scared, right? And I said, here's the thing, Disney is all about fun, right? Disney doesn't really do scary stuff. They're not, and so they all kind of then trusted me after that. And that's what's great, because I'm not the group leader. I'm not like the grown up. I'm not the authority figure. I'm not the disciplinarian. I kind of just get tag along and be like, yeah, kids, let's go and do this, which is the best approach, I think. And we did Space Mountain. They loved it. They wanted to do it again right away. And that's where we're kind of like, again, it's Disney. You can't just like go right on it right away again. These common folk over here are waiting an hour and a half to get on the ride. We can't go run by them again, because there's so much other stuff to see, right? I mean, you if there's time, we'll come back. But I mean, there's some really other great rides here. So let's, spread out. And so, so we did Space Mountain first. I can't remember the order, but one of the kids loved Toy Story, so we do that glow in the dark laser, ride. I don't know the names of them. I know Space Mountain. And then there was like that train one, the Runaway Train or something it's called. That's how big of a Disney fan I am. Disney is fascinating to me just for people watching, because there's the kids on the leashes, there's the adults that are dressed, in full costume or just ears or whatever, and I kind of look at that and go, I either feel really old or like just an old curmudgeon or like a stick in the mud or something. I would never go there with my husband and be like, let's dress up in Mickey t-shirts and wear ears, and I'm in my 40s, but hey, people have a good time. But yeah, it's fascinating to just kind of see. Oh, and another observation that I make every year is they call it the happiest place on earth. I don't see very many happy people while I'm there, except for Dreams Take Flight, because we have a good time. And so yes, we spend the morning going on rides, then we have a break for lunch, and we eat, I had chicken fingers, the kids all had chicken fingers. I'm like, let's do it, I'll have chicken fingers. And then we then have the afternoon. Now you got to pace yourself, right? You don't want to have a big full lunch and drinks and everything, and then go on something like Space Mountain, right? You kind of ease into it. So I think that's right. We did Toy Story after that, because that's not a ride that's kind of wild and crazy. As the day goes on, the exhaustion sort of begins to set in, because you've now been awake. At this point, if you would have slept and woke up, let's say at 1 o'clock in the morning, you've now been up for 12 hours. And this is, again, 12 hours straight of, go, excitement, noise, energy. So you begin to kind of fade a little bit. And we spent the afternoon. Somebody had said we'd gone on 13 rides. I wasn't keeping track, but I will take them at their word on that. And that's really incredible. If anybody's gone to Disney, that without some days and days of planning, that's almost unheard of, right? And like I said, we leave there. We're not there until, whatever time it closes at night. We leave there at about 5 in the afternoon. So think about that as your work day, really, from 9 to 5 or 8 until 5, whatever you work. That's kind of what we did. So to be able to get on that many rides, it's pretty great. And then at the end, you have your day. We didn't go on anything twice. I know that they wanted to, like I said, they wanted to do Space Mountain again, but there was just so much to check out, right? So we did that, and then at the end of the day, we all meet at a certain point, and then we get back on the buses. We go, and the bus ride, by the way, back to the airport is probably one of the quietest. That sets the tone for a very, very quiet flight. We get to we go in through kind of the back way to the airport. The plane is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. And this time, though, the flight crew has gone and put stuffed Mickey Mouse plush dolls on the kids' seats. they've previously given me because they know that my dogs love stuffed animals, so we did get them before. And they get this nice fancy blanket, so they get a bunch of gifts on the plane. And then on the way back, the lights are off and it's very quiet, but there's more food given if they want. There's sandwiches. They come around even with chocolate bars later. But it's definitely the quietest flight. So the way there is the loudest flight you'll ever be on. The way back is the quietest. Now, something that I do, I did get a few minutes of sleep on the way back. But it's become tradition over the years that I get a little bit silly with the flight crew on the way home. And I'm going to tell you about that, the grown-up fun that we have on the Scribble right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on the Scribble. During the break, they just said to me, do you realize that you kind of set it up to sound like a dirty adult thing? And I said, do you really believe listeners are going to go and think that on a plane full of children that somehow there's going to be something raunchy happening? Like, really? And then somebody said stranger things have happened. So now that I'm talking it through, I'm kind of like, okay, but no. Come on now. Keep it classy and clean, people. But something that's really interesting is this just started happening over the last, I guess, like 5 or 6 flights. That because like I said, I chat with the flight crew. It's the same people most of the time anyway. We've developed relationships, and I do some silly pictures with the gals at the back of the plane, and it's once the lunch service or the drinks or whatever. Once that's all done, I'm not taking them away from their jobs. And like I said, most of the people are already asleep on the plane anyway. So I go to the back. Sometimes they have their own little snack tray of stuff. One of them will bring in, and we'll have some munchies, and I get dressed up in their mini skirt or dress, or mini being MINNIE, the character, and we just do a bunch of silly pictures. I'll wear the tiara, and we just have a really good time. So, and then of course we end up, sending the pictures around to each other after, but it's something that also has become a tradition where, okay, let's just do the silly pictures, because at that time of the night or of the day of the adventure, it's been a successful day, right? Like, it's kind of a relief. It's over. Like, we made it happen again. We did it. Everything's been great. So, so it's just kind of our chance to unwind. And so we do it. And they're always such a great group. And then now I don't know how much I'm supposed to share, but there's generally an after party at a hotel that's right by the airport. So, like I said, when we go for Florida, it's different timing than it was for California this year. And I'm usually all for that. I'm like, okay, great. There's some wine and some, snacks and beer or whatever. They kind of really do a big spread for the team. And I'm invited to that. And I go, this year, though, here's the thing. Because we got in later, because we now go ahead 2 hours when we get back to Canada, it was well after 1:30 when we landed. Now, I said earlier, I had only slept Tuesday morning, right? From the time that I woke up Tuesday morning, I had not slept. We're now Thursday at almost 2 a.m. So you're up, what is that? I don't know how many hours that would be. And my body was just like, no, we're not doing it. And I feel bad, because that's where we really get to be just grown-ups and, let loose and have a good time and laugh and get loud. I've got pictures of me in the hotel lobby last year with a wine glass, and they also have rooms at the hotel. So if I just, need to crash there, I would just, and that's what I did. But this year I was like, I gotta get home. When you're just exhausted, you're almost like shaking, you're kind of trembling, like you just feel really unstable. That's how I was. And I just couldn't push it. I was like, yeah, no. So once we get through, when we land, the kids are reunited with their families. So I kind of stuck around for that to say bye to the kids. It was after 2:00 at that point, and I just thought, there's no freaking way that I'm gonna be able to now go. So I took, as soon as the last kid said bye, I hugged the group leader. I said, oh, great, it was nice seeing you. Great job today. And I was out. So I'm in the car. I'm getting driven home. I get home, it was just before 3:00 in the morning. So I come in the door, and I didn't even go to my bedroom. I went to the couch in the living room, and I was out. I think I put on either like Stephen Colbert, one of the late, maybe it was Seth Meyers, whoever. I put on one of the late shows. I was done within minutes. And the way that I checked that was the next day when I came to. I put on the show, and I didn't remember what happened after the 3-minute mark. So that's I can pinpoint how quickly I fell asleep. So it's, I get home, it's 3 o'clock, I crash on the couch. I slept until 1:48 in the afternoon. Thursday. So that was a good, 10 hours of sleep. And you know how you'll often wake up a couple times in the night, right? You'll wake up, but you'll roll over and you'll go back to sleep. No. This was straight through. I do not remember waking up one time, even just to roll over onto the side, or I'll often, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll start the TV show again because I have to fall asleep to noise. My husband hates it, but I fall asleep to noise. So I didn't even restart a show that I can remember. That's how much sleep I needed. But I wake up though in a panic because I thought it said 148 on the display. I thought that was the channel. I thought that was channel 148. And then I look at the clock on the wall, and I thought it said 11, right? Because your eyes are still kind of fuzzy when you wake up. And then I looked, I was like, oh no, it's actually, think about it. On the hands of a clock, 48 is around 11 o'clock, right? I mean, that's on the time. So I was like, okay, it is only 11 something. And then I looked again at the TV, and I was like, it still says 148 now. So what? And then, it took me a little while to realize I just woke up in the middle of the afternoon, or early afternoon, whatever. And so then I get an email from one of the organizers, one of the, the big, she's been with the organization for 20 some years. She's the one who, invites me to the after party. She emailed me and said, I got home at 4:30 in the morning from the after party. And I wrote back and I just said, see, I could not have done that this year. Sorry, couldn't have done it. Not even as much as I love seeing all of you. I sat with her on the bus going back to the airport in LA, so I had a chance to catch up with her anyway. But I just thought, wow, no, couldn't this time. Now I'm just aging myself at this point. I'm like, not gonna do it, not happening, not doing it. But again, it really is a fun time. I encourage you to check it out on online, on social media, whatever. I haven't even looked. Maybe I'm on their social media page. I don't know, but certainly I posted a couple pictures throughout the day. It's hard to do live tweeting because you're just in the moment with the kids, right? So it's kind of like, oh crap, I haven't posted in a while, even though I should be doing live updates for the people back home. Hey, you can't fault me for focusing on the kids that are having a great time. So once again, a great year. Again, congratulations and thank you to the wonderful people with Air Canada's Dreams Take Flight, and then our friends at Disney as well, because they make it happen and they make sure that the kids have a really special day. And we're done already because I've gone overtime, so that's it. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Oh, let me just tell you though, in years past, we've got our web coverage from the Dreams Take Flight adventures. You can go to dreams.jbonair.com. dreams.jbonair.com. And you know what? The website design is very, very outdated. So even just go and laugh at that. It'll be worth your time. I will talk to you next week. Same time, same place. Bye-bye for now, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,